So we're going to continue our work with simplifying radicals. And what we're going to see here are radicals that we do not know the square root of. But because of the word simplify, we cannot get a decimal answer. So we're going to break these numbers that are underneath the radical into factors. And one of those factors we're going to know the square root of. For instance, as you can see on here, it says, suppose you were asked to simplify the square root of 20. If you put the square root of 20 in your calculator, it would give you approximately 4.472, but we are not allowed to write the answer as a decimal. So we want to think of the factors of 20. Well, you've got 1 times 20, 2 times 10, and 4 times 5. I want you to think about the numbers that we know the square root of. We know the square root of 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, and the list continues. So when we're trying to think about how we should break up a number, we really want to consider these numbers more than anything else because we know the square root of these numbers. So when we're looking at those factors of 20, we've got 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Well, 2 and 10 is definitely out because it's not on this list over here. So I'm going to cross that one out. So that cannot be an option. But you can see that both 1 and 4 is on our list over here. So now we've got a decision to make. How do we know which one to use? Just so you know, you will never use the 1 and the number itself. That will never be how you simplify any of these radicals because it doesn't do anything for you. So with that being said, we can cross this one out. So we know we're going to split 20 into 4 times 5. So that's what's being done here. The square root of 20 is being broken up into the square root of 4 times the square root of 5. We know that the square root of 4 is 2, and we carry over this square root of 5. So now we're going to practice this with some of our own examples here. So we've got the square root of 54. Again, you're never going to use 1 and 54. So we don't need to consider that. Do we need to consider dividing by 2? No, because we don't know the square root of 2. We want to divide 54 by these numbers here, because these are the ones that are going to help us simplify these radicals. So if I, in my calculator, took 54 and divided by 4, I get a decimal. So that's not going to help us with the factor. So I move on to the next one on our list. 54 divided by 9 is 6, and that's the one that we're going to use. So we're going to break 54 into the square root of 9 times the square root of 6. The square root of 9 is 3. Carry over the square root of 6. 3 square root of 6 is our answer. 12. Again, we're never going to use 1 in the number itself, so 1 and 12 is out. If we look at our list up here, the next number is a 4. Can 4 divide 12? Yes, 4 times 3. So I'm going to split this into 4 times 3. Square root of 4 is 2. Carry over the square root of 3. 2 square root of 3 is your answer. 200 has a lot. We want to kind of look at the factors here. So if we took 200 and we divided it by 4, the first number on our list up here, we get 4 times 50. I'm going to make this list over here. If we move to 9, 200 divided by 9 is a decimal, so 9 is not a factor. Keep moving through the list. 200 divided by 16, it's a decimal. 200 divided by 25 is 8, so we want to list 25 times 8. Let's see, 36 is 200 divided by 36. Nope, it's a decimal. I'm going to 49 now. 200 divided by 49, decimal. 64, 200 divided by 64, decimal. 81, decimal. 100, we do get an answer there. It's 100 times 2. So these are all the ones that can work. So when you have more than one option, you want to pick the biggest one. So the biggest one that we know the square root of are those factors there, 102. So we are going to split 200 into the square root of 100 times the square root of 2. The square root of 100 is 10. Carry over the square root of 2. So 10 square root of 2 is your answer. So again, on this one, we had multiple choices. Always pick the biggest one in order to simplify it in one step. If we would have chosen 4 and 50, we would have then had to break 50 into its factors in order to simplify that even further. So always pick the biggest one. Let's look at the square root of 35. Well, let's think about our factors up here. We're not going to use 1. 35 divided by 4 is a decimal. 35 divided by 9, it's a decimal. 35 divided by 16 is a decimal. 35 divided by 25, decimal. And everything after that is bigger than the number itself, so we can't consider it. So this one here cannot be simplified, so it is its own answer because we cannot simplify it like we did up here on problems 1, 2, and 3. Sometimes the problems that you are going to be given will already have a number in front, and that's okay. We do these the exact same way. So we need to simplify 8. So thinking about the factors of 8, using that list, we could do 4 times 2, and then every other option is too big. So this is how we're going to split up 8. So we're going to carry over that 3. It's not going to go anywhere. And then we're going to separate the 8 into the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. So again, the 3 continues to be brought over. The square root of 4 is 2. Carry over the square root of 2. So our answer is 3 times 2, which is 6. Carry over the square root of 2. And so the 6 square root of 2 would be our answer. Same thing on number 6. We're going to carry over the 5. And we're going to split 40 into 2 other square roots. Think about our list. 40 can be split into 4 times 10. 40 is not divisible by 9. 40 is not divisible by 16. 40 is not divisible by 25. And 40 is not divisible by 36. So this is our only option to split up 40. So we're going to split it into the square root of 4 times the square root of 10. Carry the 5 over again. The square root of 4 is 2. Carry over the square root of 10. So our final answer is 5 times 2, which is 10. So 10 square root of 10 is going to be our final answer. Look at number 7. You've got the 9. We're going to carry that over. But really take a look at the number that's under the square root. It's 36. Don't we know the square root of 36? We do. So there's no need to split it up like we were on problems 5 and 6 because we know that the square root of 36 is just 6. So our problem goes down to 9 times 6, and 9 times 6 is 54, and that's our answer. Number 8, carry over the negative 6. We do not know the square root of 75, so we're going to try to split it up. So let's think. 75 is not divisible by 4. It's not divisible by 9. It's not divisible by 16, but it is divisible by 25. So we can split it into 25 and 3. Keep going through our list. It's not divisible by 36 or by 49 or by 64. So this right here is our only option to split 75. So I carried over the negative 6, split 75 into the square root of 25 times the square root of 3. Carry over the negative 6. Square root of 25 is 5. Carry over the square root of 3. So negative 6 times 5 is negative 30. Carry over the square root of 3. So negative 30 square root of 3 would be our answer. This works the same way with the quotient rule. We saw problems like this earlier on when we had a fraction underneath the square root, so we're going to treat it the same way. We're just going to split it up into the square root of the numerator divided by the square root of the denominator. Sometimes we might have to do this process in order to simplify it. So on number 25, I'm going to start, or number 1, I'm going to start by splitting this into the square root of 25 over the square root of 36. Square root of 25 we know is 5. Square root of 36 we know is 6. So 5 6 is our answer. Number 2, split this up into the square root of 3 over the square root of 64. We do not know the square root of 3. nor can we simplify it, because think of that list again of those numbers that we know the square root of. 4, the first one we can consider, is already bigger than it. So the square root of 3 cannot be simplified, therefore we'll just carry it over. The square root of 64 is on our list. We know that. It equals 8. Square root of 3 over 8 is our final answer. Number 3, split it up into the square root of 40 over the square root of 81. We do not know the square root of 40. We did see the square root of 40 earlier, I thought. Maybe not. Yes, we did on number 6. Up here, we split 40 into 4 times 10. So that's what we're going to do again down here. So we're going to split 40 into the square root of 4 times the square root of 10. On the bottom, square root of 81, we know that one. It's 9. So we don't have to split that one up. We can just give that answer. So then in the numerator, the square root of 4 is 2. Carry over your square root of 10. Carry it down your 9. 2/9 cannot be simplified, so therefore you have your answer.